Well, the guy started a party, and then he folded a party, and he switched a party. Ken Block, tonight. In some ways, it's hard to keep track of what Ken Block is doing. In other ways, it makes perfect sense. He will be my guest this evening, and we'll cover all the bases, soup to nuts, in his gubernatorial run. He was the first one to announce that he was running for governor, and this latest move, same day that Angel Tavares announced on the Democratic side, got a goodly amount of attention and probably deserves a little bit more. So stay tuned for that. Let us go to the rundown and find out what we have this evening. Well, we've got some more apologies from the Obama administration over this thing called Obamacare not rolling out too well. We've got a very, very peculiar type of almost, tyrannical regime-ish type of vote coming up. Actually, it's been going on for the last few days here in the state of Rhode Island. Nice to see the state police promote one of their key people who just happens to be a woman. And we've got some young blood in Rhode Island politics, and I'm reminded of something that was said last night on the program that I think we need to kind of refresh ourselves with. And then, after watching both the game and the post-game last night, it reminds us that really, no matter how many dollars, how many zeros, how many decimal points, how many commas are in your salary, it's still a kid's game. All right, let's talk about what's happening. So today in Washington, the congressmen were all getting together there for yet another hearing on Obamacare. And for the first time, the administration put out their Medicare, Medicaid Pro, who is known as the quarterback of the health care exchanges and Obamacare, which of course has had a terrible rollout. Let's see what Fox has on that.
Marilyn Tavenner is the first official from the Obama administration to testify about the botched healthcare.gov website.
Why should the American people believe you now? You've had nearly 4 years to get it ready. Now you're saying in 4 weeks more, it'll be great.
We have found some what I will call functional or glitches, as we call them in the public term, in the actual application itself, which we're repairing.
Yeah, they're repairing. Guess what? All this time, 4 years to get this whole thing together, they roll it out amidst all of the debt crisis and the shutdown stuff. I told you the Republicans should have just kept their powder dry and let this thing roll out the way it did, and all the evidence would be there that this Obamacare was not ready for prime time. Now she is promising 4 weeks, only 4 more weeks until the thing purrs like a kitten. Is that the same kind of promise as the president made when he said, if you like your health care, you'll keep it. If you like your doctor, you'll keep it. Now, as we find out that the Obama administration was fully aware when they rolled this plan out that as many as 7 million Americans with single-payer plans would have to forego those plans because those plans didn't match up to all the specs required by the Affordable Care Act. There's a lot of empty promises right now. Let this baby just keep on rolling, and I think you're going to find out that this thing is a lemon. And as Meatloaf would say, and I want my money back. Stay tuned for that. All right, here in Rhode Island, we've got an election going on. It's not like there's big voter turnout from precinct to precinct in your hometown. It's the daycare providers. They have an election going on. An editorial in the Providence Journal today kind of labeled it as it is. Simple. The fix is in. And it really is. The background on this is simple. The General Assembly and the governor in the last session passed this bill that allows daycare providers who, by the way, if you're scoring at home, are small business operators to unionize. It's a movement that's happening all across the country, and the Service Employees International Union, SEIU, is the main culprit in this particular scam, where they're just trying to raise union fees and add people to their roles who really have no purposefulness in being part of a union. And what they're finding out from state to state is that some of these daycare providers have been made promises that actually didn't bear out. They're paying union dues for better pay and better benefits, and the General Assemblies in the respective states aren't providing them. So anyway, in order to be able to make this work, the State Labor Relations Board, under the law, has approved the SEIU's petition to ask the daycare providers, some 540 across the state, if they'd like to be part of their union. The daycare providers have to vote as to whether they like to be part of that union. And so there's a multi-day vote with little setups, precincts around the state, kind of moving around, giving everybody the opportunity when they can over a 3 or 4 day period to vote. Well, the Center for Freedom and Prosperity in Rhode Island, under the tutelage of Mike Stenhouse, the executive director, tried to get in the way of this because there's a Supreme Court decision that may preempt the constitutionality of this altogether. He failed on that. He was told that he didn't have standing in front of the State Labor Relations Board to make that claim. Well, as a consolation prize, Mike's been getting volunteers to go out amongst the community and go to these polling places and to make sure that these daycare providers weren't unduly influenced to vote yes for the SEIU. So he's been showing up, or his volunteers have been showing up, places like CCRI in Lincoln, to find out that they had to stay 200 feet away. He was on my radio show today on the Dan Yorke Show from noon to 3 on WPRI and gave us this explanation of the play-by-play.
What specifically did you want them to do?
All we really wanted to know, A, was there any electioneering that would deprive these providers from making a free choice in the ballot box? And B, was there any check in place to ensure against fraud, either that they were the actual providers who they claimed to be, or B, that somebody wasn't, as has been alleged in other states, that somebody actually wasn't marking their ballots for them. That has been alleged to have happened in other states. There's a video we put on Facebook in California of that exact thing happening in California a few years ago. So we just wanted to observe, just like a UN would send an observer, not to interfere, to ensure that it was a fair election process.
And you couldn't get closer than 200 feet?
Couldn't get anywhere near the front door.
You know, Mike has suggested that even the state police ought to be answering for this. You know, my thought, because the state police reportedly were at one location and he says threatened to arrest some people who were not happy with the news that they couldn't go in and observe. The state police are probably just doing their thing because the State Labor Relations Board sets their own rules as many as 200 feet away for people who are not involved. I mean, it's double and a half the requirements for regular elections where that law is violated all the time. I'm talking about people who are trying to influence those who are coming in to vote. Look, listen, the daycare providers are small business owners. And if they vote yes, and they most likely will, to unionize, they're going to find out that the General Assembly is probably not going to give them any dough. So what they're going to end up doing is paying union dues and netting less money. This is a fishing expedition for the SEIU, and frankly, it's too bad that only the Center for Prosperity and Freedom here, Mike Stenhouse's group, is trying to look out for them, and they don't even know it. Alrighty, let's move on. Speaking of the state police, this was nice to see. Major Karen Pinch was promoted to the third-ranking position in the state police. Here's some video from the latest promotion ceremony back in April. She's sitting there next to Lieutenant Colonel Hill, who, of course, got a lot of news for the state police about 10 days or so ago. Not such good news when he was caught in a little situation where allegedly or reportedly he had a relationship with a cadet and it went sour, and you know, it brought a lot of embarrassment to the state police. But she now will replace him as the third-ranking officer in the state police. Let me say this about the state police. As far as I'm concerned, you know, every organization has a flaw, but they're the last bus of integrity. They really are. And congratulations to her. I've met her on a couple of occasions, and she's a really nice person, but don't be fooled. She knows how to get the job done. So congratulations to the Colonel, Steve O'Donnell, for making this call, and to her. It's an inspiration for women in law enforcement, and it mitigates some of the negative press that happened last week for our state police. Here's an interesting little ditty for you when as we move along here. We have a little bit of, I just wanted to mention this. We had a headline regarding Clay Pell's interest in running for governor, this 30-something young guy who's married to Michelle Kwan, the Olympic skater, and who, of course, is the grandson of Claiborne Pell. He and Seth Magaziner are the two young whippersnappers that are reportedly going to be involved in our 2014 elections. We got a picture of each of those two guys. Clay Pell on the left and Seth Magaziner on the right. Magaziner's in. Pell is threatening to run in the Democratic primary, I guess, but he's not talking to the media. I just wanted to remind you of something Ernie Almonte said last night, the state auditor general, former, who was running for treasurer. When it comes to these kids who are somewhat privileged.
I've been through my whole career. I've met a lot of people that have been born on third base but think they hit a triple. And I look at this as saying, there's really not experience in this matter. I have broad breadth of experience, and it's deep, too. I've got the education, the experience, ethics, and maturity to do this job. I'm going to make a pathway for success for everybody.
Ernie, the born on third base, thought you heard a triple, that resonated, didn't it? I just wanted to play it again. I think these guys who are, you know, big family, big money, jumping into big gigs like they own the place, oh, I'm not so sure you made contact and hit that triple, but we'll see. Time will tell. And speaking of kids who do make contact, Sox go up 3-2. And listen, they only got to get one more, either tomorrow night or Halloween night at Fenway. Ross hits one to left field and scores a run, and kind of a surprise hero, but that's kind of the way it's gone for the Red Sox this year. But here's what I wanted to show you. The press conference was just so funny. Were you watching this? Did you stay up late enough to see him have such a good time at the press conference after the game?
Talking to you guys with the, you know, the whole World Series thing behind me, right? I mean, that's what you see people on TV. I'm stoked. I'll stay here all night. They'll hold that plane, I promise.
What did you think of the airplane when it came out there? And if Lester tried to throw it tonight, what would he have done with it?
I don't know. I don't know what he'd done with it if he'd have thrown it. But we all, me, Yachty, and the umpire were pretty impressed. I thought that was a nice throw. I mean, that thing glided in there.
The guy's just having a great time. Just to remind you, no matter how much money these guys make, they're very lucky at the core to be playing a kid's game. And the Sox and the Cards are playing it pretty well. Looking forward to tomorrow night. Ken Block, running for governor as a Republican. We'll talk about his plan and his politics and when we come back. Stay with us. Really going to run for governor. Ken Block also made headlines yesterday. Hardly needs any introduction. He's seeking the GOP nod for governor. Not surprising, since I told him it was probably one of the best things he could do, but I'm not taking credit for that. You think on your own, no doubt. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
The politics of this we'll cover in our next segment, but the plan that you've put up, here is a website. I showed you this last night, and I am intrigued by all of this, and a kind of a promise that Ken makes that he will find and save Rhode Island $1 billion. I've learned since the radio show yesterday that it is kind of a combination of both in government and in the economy type of savings. $1 billion over how long a period of time?
Hard to know exactly, because some of the programs we're going to save that money in produce annual savings, and some of them are going to produce a one-hit type of thing. And it's going to take some time to put each of these plans into play. So I can't tell exactly what the timing is going to be yet, because I don't know how much pushback or how difficult it might be to uncover some of the things we want to do.
So why promise the billion?
It's going to be $1 billion. It will be at least $1 billion, 100%. But you asked me how long. It's going to take some combination of time. I just don't know.
Meaning a gubernatorial term, 2 terms,
my
10 years?
No, my plan is to get that within a term for sure.
Okay. You may want to, Steve, you can pop up some of the thoughts here that Ken has. These are the main points where there's a lot of money savings that Ken has illustrated on his website, Ken Block for Governor. Fix the unemployment insurance, fix the temporary disability insurance, and we'll pop that up and back and forth a couple of times. You know, this temporary disability insurance conversation is an interesting one.
Yes,
we even actually talked more on the radio today about the culture that you're going to have to change as the governor. Explain where the savings are in TDI, one of Rhode Island's favorite programs.
Sure. I had a conversation yesterday with a very conservative person, considers himself a very conservative Republican. And he told me that he heard us talking about TDI and said that, in fact, he had gone out for a recovery that should have taken 6 weeks, asked the doctor for 12 weeks, was given a 12-week note, and he took his full 12 weeks out on TDI. That is the entire encapsulated problem with that program. People use it beyond what's medically required, and we all pay for it. New Jersey makes sure that the outage, in terms of the amount of time you take off, is medically required. When we do that, we will drop the cost of this program in half.
But I asked you yesterday, and I'll ask you again today, do you really think that the electorate that loves to get their bennies, even though only 9% of the folks who are paying into TDI are on at any given time, as you were explaining, do you think people really want to be in a position where their doctors are going to be tougher by administrative policy with them?
I do, and the reason I think they will is because anyone who makes $60,000 or more a year should be able to keep $400 more annually in their paycheck than they would right now.
Because there'll be less deduction?
There's less deduction.
So that savings is in the system and in the pockets.
Correct, right into the pockets of the people who pay the tax.
Tell me quickly about the unemployment dynamic.
The unemployment dynamic is one that's employer-based. So in this circumstance, cutting right to the chase, we have a small number of employers in this state who routinely and annually lay off the same people at the same time of year every year. And when that happens, the greater business community is essentially helping to subsidize this small number of employers with their payroll. So if you worked for a landscaper, let's say, and every year you were laid off in November and came back to work in March, for those couple of months that you're laid off, your salary is subsidized by all the other companies in this state that pay the tax.
People like that.
So, and well, the problem is we have the most expensive such program in the country. We're the dead last in terms of most expensive, and it hurts us competitively. It hurts us really badly, actually. So other states have had this problem. They've fixed it. We need to gin up the political will to fix it.
All right. Well, we'll talk about the political will. Ken's political moves and whether it matches up to the political will when we come back. Stay with us. That was a good segment. That is the Barrington Town Hall where our guest went yesterday and registered as a Republican. Were you twitching? Or were you shaking
Not at all.
when you did that?
Easy to do.
You built a moderate party all by yourself, and now it fades into oblivion.
It does.
There's nobody there that's upset. Have you heard from moderates who are saying, what'd you do?
I've heard from a few moderates who are unhappy, but as I explained to them, the goal of the party was to make substantial change in this state along the lines of fixing the economy and fixing the educational system, which remains my focus. And as I explained to them, the best way to get those changes done is to make sure we can really get people elected into office. And the place to get that done, unfortunately, is not the moderate party. That failed. It can't be the way to do it. The Republican Party is the way to get that done.
Because?
At the end of the day, launching a new political party in this country is a remarkable hurdle to overcome, and nobody's really successfully done it. I was no different than anybody else.
In a sense, you're renting the Republican Party. The alleged leader of the gubernatorial race in the Republican Party is the soon-to-be-announced Alan Fung, the mayor of Cranston, who on the show a couple of weeks ago said this about this guy, should he run. What would a Ken Block primary look like with you?
Oh, and that's one of the things that, you know, this team of people that are in exploratories is helping me guide through, because whether Ken jumps in the race or not, I'm going to be prepared. And I've said this before on your show, one person's decision, whether it's Ken or Angel or Gina, who you know I'm very good friends, or even Gina, isn't going to influence what I'm looking to do, and that's help the people of the state of Rhode Island.
All right, fairly general answers from Alan Fung, who I guess is announcing next week. He's tried to corner the establishment Republican Party marketplace.
Yep.
Are you going to chip away at it?
We're going to chip away at it, and I go back to 2010.
By osmosis or by strategy?
There will be
want the establishment, or do you want to be the anti-establishment?
I want everybody. I want every vote that's out there. What I saw in 2010 firsthand was Frank Caprio spent the better part of his term as treasurer running around getting early support, and that support totally evaporated on him as the campaign went on, as it should have, because he really didn't have a whole lot that he campaigned on. In this coming up election, I will be all about substance, and I believe my ideas trump everybody else's. If it's about the issues and it's about the ideas, I'll stand my ideas up against anybody, and I believe the ideas will carry the day.
You have a substantial success story in business. I'm guessing you're going to end up putting a substantial amount of money, of your own money, into this campaign, yes?
That would be a good guess.
All right. As much as it takes to win type of thing? Hundreds of thousands of dollars at least?
Yes.
Yeah. Alan Fung doesn't have that, but he's raising a couple $100,000 at this point. It's going to be a lot of dough, though, in a Republican Party, which is kind of elected in the confines of a phone booth, right? So it's going to be interesting.
20,000 voters.
Yeah, but if you get there and you win that thing, it changes the whole dynamic when it comes to running against one of the two Democrats or one of the three Democrats.
100%.
You know, This kid Pell, I guess, is going to get in, but we know Raimondo's going to get in eventually, and Taveras is in right now. How do you see the landscape?
There will be a Democrat, there will be a Republican, and we will have at it. And I am looking forward to it.
You think your message of making these tough decisions and cultural change will resonate both in the Republican and in a general election?
I really do.
In this,
yes.
In this place where money grabs and scams and what's in it for me dominates?
People are mad. People are really upset at where Rhode Island is. They feel
Unless
rightly
theirs is affected.
Well, but they also feel rightly that we really haven't gone anywhere in a couple of years. And they're not quite pick up the pitchforks mad yet, but they really want us to do better. For parents who've seen their kids leave this state, they want to fix that. And I'm motivated to do this because I don't want to see my kids leave the state when they're ready to take their first job. So this is a resonating issue across the board. It's not a Republican-Democrat thing. This is, we have to fix it or we're going to lose.
Come back a lot. There'll be a lot of conversation in this gubernatorial race. Ken Block, Republican Ken Block. Your State of Mind. When we come back, stay with us. In what has been an interesting political week, we get your feedback like this from Christine, who posts on Facebook. As the old saying goes, well, enough about me. How do you like my tie? That's pretty funny. That's about this guy, Angel Taveras, who announced he was running for governor yesterday at the Meeting Street School amidst the little school books there. As I pointed out on the show yesterday, it took him 4 pages of his speech to start talking about ideas. Thus, the sarcasm from our listener on Facebook. You may offer your sarcasm at your leisure simply by dialing me at 228-1886 and leave a voicemail, and we'll run your voice right here on the air. State of Mind at myRITV.com is the email, and of course you can get in touch with us on both Twitter and Facebook at Dan Yorke Show. Don't forget the E. That is your state of mind and mine for tonight. We'll see you tomorrow morning at tomorrow morning? No, how about tomorrow night at 7:30? We haven't moved the show yet. We'll see you then. Bye.